So I am calling this meeting to order at 5:30. First, a reminder that meetings of the Select Board are meetings conducted in public. They are not meetings of the public. Nonetheless, members of the public shall be afforded reasonable opportunities to express opinions about matters conducted by the Select Board so long as order is maintained. The rules for public comment are, at the conclusion of a Select Board discussion on an agenda item, but before any action is taken, there may be 10 minutes afforded to public comment. Comments made by the public must be addressed to the chair or to the Select Board as a whole and not to any individual members of the Select Board or members of the public. Members of the public must be acknowledged by the chair before speaking. If a member of the public has already spoken on a topic, they shall not be recognized again until others have first been given the opportunity to comment. Order and decorum shall be maintained throughout the meeting. Personal, impertinent, threatening, or profane remarks will not be tolerated. For those who are participating via Zoom, please note that chat is not an appropriate avenue for public comment. All public comments must be made verbally when acknowledged by the chair. Please silence all cell phones, and a reminder to all that this meeting is being recorded and may appear on the internet. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes of September 20th, 2023?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of September 2023. We talked about a lot of stuff. I do remember seeing something in here that I wanted to change, but
this is a lot more detail than we're used to seeing in the...
yeah. Oh, I know what it was. In B, Select Board, page 4. At the end it says, Peg Alden made a friendly motion to not send the list of holidays. I think we said that we wanted to send the whole thing as is. Unless somebody's remembering that differently.
I actually do remember that we weren't going to send the list of holidays.
We weren't? Okay.
Because that's my memory.
I just remember that the Equity and Inclusion Committee was hesitant as well.
No, it was to send it to VLCT though.
Oh, yeah.
Just to have it.
But I thought since we were talking about having to pay for their services, that we weren't clear about. We felt that was its own challenge.
What did you end up doing, Karen?
It's a question that I have because we have two different lists. And
two different lists.
Yeah, so we have a short list and then we have the link that Swift shared.
Okay.
So which
list? I remember that what I wanted to do is send the whole thing with the original list that we had stripped out to VLCT and see what they said.
Okay.
But that was just me, and I don't
Swift remember. Oh,
Swift,
had her hand up.
do you remember?
Yeah, I remembered that same thing as Aileen, that you wanted to get their opinion on including the list or not, or including a link or not, and getting their opinion on all of it is what I remembered.
Okay.
And
I guess we'll have to go back to the actual recording to see what we actually said, but, and I don't know what that means to be changed for these minutes. Does that mean we just table them until?
Or I can rescind my sense that we did make that decision.
Okay.
So then everybody can agree that we
that we'll just send
it on.
Send it on as it was originally written with the original list, not the link. But I think what we said was we wanted to know whether the link, like whether that would be an acceptable alternative, along with the review. So if you're giving me a thumbs up and a hand.
Thumbs up of what you just said is what I remembered you saying, of wanting to ask them the opinion between doing the link or the list or getting their point of view on that.
All right. Okay. So I guess let's just strike that whole thing there. Any other changes?
No, I don't have any other changes, but I do wonder if we want to talk about the note taking.
Yeah.
How much detail we want on note taking. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's
appropriate time to do
there
this.
is a happy medium between, a good sense of the meeting versus too much information. And our meetings are recorded, so if people want to get a good sense of the meeting, they can always go to the original recording. I did also have a sense that they were a little too wordy, but I don't have a strong opinion about it, and I don't know if this is the right time to be talking about it. Should we put that on an agenda item, or we're not even the ones
No.
taking the notes? So
No, I don't
thank you,
think it
Rachel, for
needs-
taking the notes. We're not trying to criticize your note taking, but they are. I mean, different people have different ways of doing it.
So if you want them shorter, then, basically with minutes, you need who attended and motions.
Mhm.
Everything else we can strip out.
I mean, I do think that I do feel like there is, something to be said about at least a little bit of the discussion that goes on, especially if it's really complicated.
I'm gonna say one thing, these particular ones, especially when you're talking about policies and we're going back and forth,
Mhm.
and it's not just with select board, it's with other committees, I mean, some detail to what we talked about is very helpful.
Yeah.
And if we ever have to go back, I know you have the recordings, but sometimes you can grab the information from the minutes.
This is true. I have grabbed information for policy writing before, so.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that about policies. I think what stands out for me is the kind of he said and then she said and then he said and she,
Okay.
I don't think we need the names of all the community members that are involved when we're having a
Right.
conversation. I think that just gets a little tricky and then,
We can do a snapshot.
yeah, that's what I would propose.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments, questions, changes to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Thank you, Rachel. And I think I forgot to say in the beginning of the meeting that Charlie did say he was not going to be here, so. Did I skip over adjustments to the order of the agenda? I
You
did.
did, but we can't do anything about it now. You're gonna have to keep going.
Okay.
Sorry, you already approved the minutes.
All right, I'm just trying to make it go faster. So,
I say we only do the odd numbers tonight,
All
right?
right.
that skips over warrants. I don't think Karen would like that. So can I have a motion for the warrants?
I'll make a motion to approve and execute the warrants upon completion of review.
For a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the warrants approve and execute the warrants upon completion of review. Karen?
So payroll warrant dated October 6, 2023, in the amount of $22,581.82. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Any questions? No, moving on.
Moving on, accounts payable dated September 23rd through October 6, 2023, in the amount of $393,161.79. In this warrant, we have several loan payments. One is for the excavator lease for $18,292.46. The 2020 Western Star to M&T Bank for $35,926.05. Renault Brothers Culvert for Westminster Road, $100,000. US Bank, total $189,145.60. That is payments for the fire station, the water, the sewer, and the gravel pit. and that includes interest as well. So all of those payments equal $343,364.11.
Okay.
So there's the bulk of this warrant.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, so the next thing is public comment on items not on the agenda, and I did promise that I was going to set aside a little bit of time to talk about an incident that happened, I think, last Wednesday, in which a symbol of a swastika was discovered on the sidewalk, I believe, next to, or just below Phineas White Lane.
Yes, across from the Lavender House.
Across from the Lavender House. It appeared at the time to be drawn with a carrot. And what I know about this incident is that several people saw it in its original form, and that it then became, somebody changed it to be a hopscotch game and also took away the carrot. I knew about this, I think, on Thursday morning. I'd been sent pictures, and the Equity Inclusion Committee met to discuss it. They then agreed to inform Karen, myself, John Sessions, the principal of Putney Central School, about the incident, and then I believe Karen reported it to the sheriff on Monday morning. Which is at which point became a press release and made it into the paper. So I want to say at the beginning of this entire thing, I wanted to keep it, I didn't want to give it oxygen by giving it too much airtime, and I think that was the consensus of the Equity and Inclusion Committee as well, and several other people. But since it did make it into the paper, and the paper implied that we were going to talk about it today at this meeting, we're doing that right now. And I just want to say that the Select Board 2 years ago wrote a resolution condemning similar incidences, and I just want to read the resolve part of that resolution, because I can't imagine that it doesn't also ring true to this Select Board today. And that is that the Putney Select Board condemns and denounces any and all manifestations of expressions of racism, xenophobia, discrimination, scapegoating, and ethnic or religious intolerance against any community members by any Putney employee or agent thereof. And the Putney Select Board commits to recognizing and acting on harmful acts to the best of their ability to the extent afforded them according to statute. And the Putney Select Board encourages the citizens of Putney to work together as a community in order to make Putney a safe space for all of its community members. I can't say enough that how this is not okay. It may have been a kid, it may have been somebody who didn't know any better, they may not have understood the impact, but that particular symbol is a symbol of hate and harm to the Jewish community. And I don't know how to say it any stronger than that. I do have another thing to say. I did talk to Mark Anderson today, and he reminded me that his office can't do a lot of good if he only knows about something 4 or 5 days after the fact. He reminded me that everybody said it was a carrot. His office can't confirm that it was a carrot. It had rained over the weekend. There was no evidence of the symbol other than the pictures that people had taken. So I just want to remind the community that if you see something, say something. And it probably will end up in the paper. I don't know how we can, get around that, but so that was one thing that he told me. And the other one is that there is, because of incidents like this, they have started a board incident reporting system, which, although in this particular case this is protected speech, it and that therefore it may not be punishable by the law. That the Attorney General's office is keeping track of these incidences, and they are trying to put together more community services for incidences like this in communities that are impacted, other than just saying, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. So that's what his office is trying to do right now. And I think that's all I'm going to say. I do have John Sessions here to talk about anything that Putney Central may be doing in response.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Aileen. Sorry. John Sessions, I'm the principal of Putney Central. I want to thank folks for bringing this to our attention. You know, as soon after it happened, it helped us think about sort of our response as a school. You know, and one of the things that I think about is that when there's incidents of community harm such as this, you know, working in a school, we sort of have a responsibility to respond from a place of support, community conversation, care for our community, and teaching and learning. You know, and I view events like this in a community like Putney as a teachable moment for all of us that you don't want to let pass. So in that light, you know, we've taken some steps. I've communicated pretty closely with a woman named Michaela Sims, who's our school district diversity, equity, and social justice coordinator, who has facilitated conversations in the past at other schools around the use of hate symbols and hate language and the impact that has on the community and individuals. And so Michaela's going to consult with our upper grades classes around facilitating some of these conversations. We as a school we're working really closely this year with the Greater Falls Community Justice Center, which is out of Bellows Falls, and we're doing a lot of work as a staff, and our student leaders are doing a lot of work around restorative justice training and holding sort of restorative conversations. And so we're working with John Ungerleiter and Lauren MacArthur, who are spearheading a lot of that work. And they're going to come in, and we're just going to have community conversations around the impact of hate speech and symbols in light of this event that's happened in town. You know, and not limiting that conversation to just the use of a swastika, but hate speech and symbols in general, right? And the impact that can have regardless of the intent. And so, you know, it's a really challenging thing that happened in town, but I do think it's an opportunity for us to have some really impactful conversations in the school community that I'm looking forward to. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions about that?
Yeah, does anybody have any comments or questions online about this incident or the response? Swift?
Hi, thank you. John, thank you for sharing all that the school is doing. And I think it reiterates where the equity committee landed at the end of our meeting and our decision of documenting and our commitment to work with the town and to advise the town on creating a systemic step-by-step emergency plan in the same way that we have plans for floods or other emergencies, of having the town have a step-by-step plan of what we do, so we don't all just hustle and go into urgency or go into panic or go into like using whatever resource we have at that moment to turn towards something that's actually guiding us. And I would advise that the school, maybe the district has something, or this gets kicked up to the district, or like, hey, we need something for this. These actions happen. And I appreciate this conversation. I appreciate what you brought in, Aileen, of not giving it more airtime than whomever did this, attention seeking or whatever it might be, and also recognizing that this is a pattern and we get to confront it and ignite change because of it. So, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Ready, Mark?
Yeah, I have two points. One, I just want to say that the swastika is super offensive to a lot of people beyond just the Jewish community. So I just want to say, say that. And two, that I really support documenting these incidences, because in a way they really help those of us who are targeted by these things feel less crazy when we bring it up to our community and people are like, oh, I don't even know what you're talking about. And yet we know, we hear it, we live it all the time as targeted folks. And sometimes I just think it's important that we bring it out to the community so that everybody else is aware of that as well. So those are my 2 points.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments on the select board about this? Any comments in the room? Does anybody else have anything to say about this particular thing on online? Okay, thank you, John, for showing up. Okay, so we're going to move on to public comments on items that are not on the agenda. That wasn't on the agenda, but that was a specific topic that we needed to bring up. Are there any comments on the select board? Anything else that you want to bring up? Are there comments online on items not on the agenda? Any comments in the room? All right, hearing none, let's move on to the town manager's report.
Thank you. So FEMA disaster DR 4621 is closed out as of August 25th, 2023. The town has received all funding for the July 2021 storm.
All right,
Yes,
2 years later.
2 years later.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'm very thankful for that. So now I'm working on the other storm. But it's much smaller. It's much smaller.
So we'll be finishing that one off in another 2 years.
Possibly.
Okay.
So AP Triton data collection is almost complete for the fire department operations analysis. We're waiting on the incident data and GIS data. This information was requested for mutual aid by the chief. My schedule is to have the data by this Friday, so we can stay on schedule. Once the data is collected, the 30-day clock begins. And that clock is to validate the data. So more data may be requested through that process. And we're hoping to see a draft report mid-November.
Great.
So I'm gonna try to keep that on track. I'm gonna be like a Sue Coakley and just like bam, bam, bam. Lisa Papazi and I have secured an HVAC engineer to do the mechanical engineering report
Okay.
on HVAC alternatives for town hall. We were also, we secured a grant to assist with the cost, and the study is $3,200. And that should be completed by December 20th, 2023.
Great. So that's moving along. Good.
Yeah, so that's moving forward. Financial audit is scheduled for October 16th for the first visit, and then again November 1st and 2nd. Our audit is late this year. So we started the first initial preliminary checklist back on July 13th.
Okay.
So this is going to run up against our budget, depending on how things fall out. I'm going to need some time to review the audit as well. So I will keep you apprised of that as it happens. The next meeting, I will also have the first quarter financials. Probably should have had them for this meeting, but you will get them the next meeting.
Okay. We'll still be in the
Yeah.
second quarter or whatever. So
Well, we're gonna start the budget,
Yeah.
and you're all gonna just get totally confused by both. So, but,
looking
so-
forward to it.
yes, that's all I have.
Okay, great. Are there any comments on the select board about the town manager's report? Anybody online about the town manager's report? Questions or comments? Anybody in the room? Okay, moving along to the boards, committees, and commissions. We don't have anything under that. Select board items, new business. We have the animal control ordinance request for VLCT review.
So in your packet, this ordinance was drafted back in 2019. Of course, COVID hit. And I'll take responsibility for not staying active on this. This probably should have been resolved by now and reviewed. And
Don't we already have one?
We do have one, but some people felt it didn't have any teeth to it. VLCT does have a template. Part of that is in this draft. What I'm requesting is VLCT review. I did get a quote, so they figured it'd be 4 to 6 hours to review, $600.
Okay.
I feel it's important that an ordinance like this, that does have liability to the town, should be reviewed. Positive, it may be outdated on some things because the law probably changed somewhat. So I'd like to get a review and then possibly bring it back to the committee. I don't know if the committee will be the same people.
Animal
It's been so
Control
long.
Committee or whatever we had, yeah.
So, and the other part of this conversation is, now that we have an animal control officer, we did talk with Wyndham County Sheriff's Office, and because they're working with so many different towns, and every town has a different ordinance. So it makes it difficult for their department, but we haven't brought to the table to have like one general and maybe have appendixes for certain towns. So
Right,
I don't
because
know
like
if
we have a leash area, right?
Yes.
The village has,
I think
Yeah.
the biggest thing too for the board is when we have vicious dogs and how to handle that, because that is like,
that's
Yes.
us, isn't it?
although the animal control is contracted to deal with vicious dogs.
Yeah.
But, you know, some towns have to make a decision to put dogs down. We did have an incident or two where, you know, back 5 years ago, it was a problem. And it was traumatic for certain people.
Question? Can you remind us how this compares to the draft ordinance that we got from BCO?
The template?
Yeah, VLCT, yeah, from their template,
So ours has more information because the group at that time felt it was important.
Okay.
So honestly, Peg, I can't go back.
Right, I was just trying to figure out, you know, I really get a sense of, is it really substantively different than the draft that VCLT already gave us? And if it's not, then I was just wondering the value of sending it up for a $600 review from the folks who already gave us a draft. But if you're saying it is really different from that.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
cool, I just need to.
I recommend the review.
Yeah,
The $600 is going to be worth
yeah,
spending on this.
cool.
Other ones I might say no, but this one, yes.
Okay. All right, somebody want to make a motion?
The motion is to approve the funding, the review,
Yeah.
sending the animal control ordinance up to VLCT for review.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to send the town of Putney Animal Control Ordinance to VLCT for review. Is there other discussion on the board? Is there comments in the room? Any comments online? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Internal control and financial management procedures, manual review and approval.
So in your packet is an updated,
It's before.
is it in here?
I think
It just went
it's
before.
before the other one.
Yeah, I'm not used to flipping through, but. Alright. So in your packet is an updated internal control and financial management procedures. All I'm gonna say about this, most of the content is the same, what I did change, we had in here administrative assistant / assistant treasurer. So what I've done is the treasurer has certain roles and responsibilities, and the assistant treasurer is the backup, and they have certain roles and responsibilities. It's a check and balances, separation of duties. What I'm looking for is treasurer, assistant treasurer, and as the finance director, that's all in place in this document. So I don't want one person having two roles.
Okay.
And the administrative assistant also deals with like new employees and a little bit of the like HR, like insurance and stuff like that. So the treasurer and the assistant doesn't touch that area.
Okay. Does everybody feel comfortable approving this now, or do you want a chance to read it, or?
Oh, I forgot some of you may not have ever seen this, right?
I mean, yeah, I've seen it, but
Right.
that was last year.
Well, right, because like I said, most of this, nothing, the content hasn't changed.
Right.
It's just the titles and who's responsible for what.
I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah.
All right, then can I hear a motion?
Make a motion to accept the internal control financial management procedure.
Second?
Second?
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the Town of Putney internal control and financial management procedures. Is there any other discussion on the board? Any comments online? Any comments in the room? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now for the fun stuff. All right, so the next one is the community services policy. And I did send out an email, and I guess even though I sent it out to everyone that was supposed to be on the list, I still managed to miss people. But I did get some comments back, which didn't necessarily make it in the packet.
What did you send to them?
I sent them an email.
But, oh, you didn't send them the draft?
I did send them the
The draft that you had at the last
The
meeting or
draft
this
that,
one?
the draft that we're discussing is the one that I sent them, because that's the draft we're gonna be discussing. I sent them, oh, I'm not connected.
Are you looking for the content of what you sent?
Actually, there were a
Maybe
couple.
Ruby can tell us.
There were a couple of comments that didn't make it into the packet, so I thought I'd find those, but I'm having problems, of course.
Did I miss them, Aileen?
I forwarded them to you with the idea that they would be in the packet, but I may not have made that clear.
It's okay.
It was during the course of like last week. One was from, one was from Ruby, which we
That
got.
one's in here.
And then there was one from Libby Bennett, who was from Groundworks. And then there was another one from somebody from Senior Solutions.
Yeah. Well,
Bear with me for a second, I got back in.
I might be able to print them out, but.
Sorry, everyone.
Oh, here it is, right here, 918,
I have-
right?
There's,
918. No.
Oh, no, October 3rd was Libby Bennett.
We'll start with Ruby, so she's got time constraint.
Yeah, so yeah, let's start with Ruby. So hi, Ruby.
Hi. Am I being recognized?
You're
Okay. I'm Ruby,
yes.
I'm Ruby Matthew, and I'm here as the coordinator of Putney Community Cares. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for keeping your end of the agreement that you said at town meeting you would pay attention to this and do something. So good job for doing things. I did have, I guess, firstly, the thing that was sent out was not the black line version. It was just, is a proposed draft that accepts changes. And when I look at what's in your packet, it's not quite, it's missing number 10. It's missing stuff at the end, which maybe is less.
Okay.
I don't know how much that impacts things, but I am happy to tell you what I sent in an email to Aileen, which were essentially 2 comments and questions or kind of wonderings that I had. The first was really that the switch in language from social services to community services, I understand, or at least my assumption in that is that a community services agency, which might include an arts organization or the community center, which has a building but isn't as actively having events, for example. And I guess one of my issues, or one of the things that I've always wondered about social service policy, is that the 3 levels that used to exist only were kind of delineating by geographic area. You're really hyper Putney, you're kind of Putney, and then you're peripherally Putney. And this change drops the peripherally Putney and just has those 2 inner rings. But I think my assumption as a community member has always been that the intention of the social service policy as it was, and now the hope was to have an impact on social service agencies in our town. And I don't think our social service funding policy ever really did that successfully. And I think it's been a little bit dispersed. So dropping that outer ring helps to consolidate things, but I would just ask, or I would question whether or not there's a need to actually delineate by something other than just geographic location. And I would kind of throw out there my own opinion that in our town, in the hyper-local Putney kind of circle, there are 2 organizations that provide direct, in my assumption is that I'm not missing anyone, but provide direct social services, and that's the Putney Food Shelf and Putney Community Cares. So from my perspective, right now, as of the last town meeting, there's the Putney Community Cares, Putney Food Shelf, Putney Community Center, and Next Stage, 4 organizations. And I really do think that this is an opportunity to ask ourselves, are we funding all 4 of those equally, or is there a way in which the direct services organizations should be elevated? I don't have I'm not proposing something, but I'm throwing that out as I think it's something to consider seriously. If we're talking about a difference between $6,000 and $4,000, it may not really be that much, but ultimately my organization really does rely on this particular funding as a big part of what we turn to from our annual budgets. And so with such small budgets that we work with, relatively speaking, it does have an impact. So that's my first comment. And my second one, I guess, I switched my order, but I think that there's a way in which the language of the proposed draft, it added an applicability section that lists, it has a list that is not limited to list. So you could throw anything in there potentially. But the applicability list has some really clear direct services categories. it doesn't have categories that I put into the community services. Like, what are community service? We have defined community services. And my assumption when I started reading it is that was because we wanted arts organizations, we wanted nonprofits in our town, like Next Stage, like the community center, and potentially others that crop up to have access to funds if they go through the processes. And but we don't ever define what community services are. And we've done it, the applicability really just leaned back into the direct social services, which I don't actually have a problem with that, but I think clarity around what's the intention and who's being served, because I do think that it does have clarity when you talk about the groups, it identifies them as nonprofits, but I don't feel like that is nonprofit is a category under applicability. So things like that I think could be made consistent, and I guess that's most of it. Those are my primary comments. Once I was really paying attention and looking here, I think there's some language that I was confused about around at the end of the draft around there's a kind of a parenthetical that talks about a possibility of if an organization was on a list from a previous year because they were funded for a one-time service or event, that parenthetical doesn't, like, I don't see an avenue beyond the select board making every 3 years you look at things, or maybe someone petition. There's no way that I see in this policy, if I had a one-time event and I wanted to get funding, how do I petition you for that? Or are you talking about someone could more, is it that basically in reference to the public being able to warn something at a town meeting and have action or agency that way? So it felt like that wasn't quite clear, and in fact I felt like the language isn't quite clear around when and how right now the public, at the last town meeting there wasn't was there a warning? Oh, there was a warning. The Next Stage thing was a warning.
There were two,
Two
we
Right.
basically punted because we knew we were going to work on the policy,
Got it.
so it was Grace Cottage and Next Stage.
Got it. Anyway, so those are my thoughts, and I have assumed that this is kind of a starting point. But I wanted to honor that you guys have done the work, and so I want, as a collaborating organization, to kind of let you guys know what my thoughts are, and I really appreciate you all involving all of the organizations that are affected.
Okay, thank you. Did you have?
I've got a couple different things, but I'm
Okay.
not sure now.
Well, I wanted to say that as we were writing this and trying to incorporate organizations like Next Stage, I came down on the idea, not so much that they were an arts organization, but that they provided a public service and a public space for the town. So like they did, they hosted the town plan hearings, not hearings, but well, I guess they were hearings, sessions. So that was, that provided a service to the town, and they do the community suppers and they do other things a lot, like the community center would host things like that. So that's where I was coming down on that in order to include them in this policy in my mind. And I personally also feel like there are levels of service of certain organizations that are maybe deserving of more support than others. I don't really know how to write that into here right now. And I know that in the past, community, Putney Community Cares received double funding, and the rationale was that they had merged two organizations. And I can totally see where that is important. However, I also know that the food shelf serves a vast amount of people as well, and so I don't know how to split that up in an equitable way. That's where I'm struggling with this policy. Did you want to?
I just wanted to say that I don't feel like this policy is anywhere near being ready. I have a lot of the questions that you're bringing up. I just feel like and I take some responsibility for that because I was supposed to work on it between the last meeting and this meeting. But in my mind, I wish we could have gotten this bit a little clearer ourselves before we even send it out for feedback. I think it would have made the process a little bit easier to know what you're responding to. Because I think there's a number of big issues in this that are not clarified, that kind of the process still feels really murky to me. The 3-year thing is confusing to me in terms of what people do in the interim years, how they enter into the system. I understand that we might review them every 3 years, but I'm not clear how people enter into the system. And I am extremely uncomfortable with the language in that applicability section. I just think it's some really bad language describing people vulnerable people in our community. I just wouldn't use that language to describe drug and alcohol abusers, and it's just not okay language to use. So for all those reasons, what I'd like to do is take all the feedback that we're getting and kind of throw it back into the hopper again.
Can you pass that to Peg, please? Can I make a comment?
Are you done?
Only that part of when I first started looking at this some time ago, I don't know, a lifetime ago now, I looked at all different policies from other towns, and everybody, a lot of folks are struggling with how to frame this, but that issue of kind of vulnerable populations and prioritizing vulnerable community members, I think is maybe one of the, I don't know, that's something that I would like to see if we can frame up a little better.
Karen?
Okay, so I just wanted to make a comment. What I just handed you, Peg, is a VLCT template, and if you look, item number 3, applicability, that is where that language came from. Ruby, I don't think you have the copy that we are looking at right now. So what I had done,
You sent me.
I made changes to
Okay.
the, whatever you call that, doc, shared doc. And I took the
Some of this,
template
yeah.
because of your comment that, okay, so we have this, but what is the procedure?
Right.
And the procedure to petition or to request from the select board, Ruby,
Yeah.
is in
Number
this
10.
document.
Yeah, I
So-
see on the packet online has
Okay.
those different things.
Okay, good.
But what was sent by email
Yeah.
is the older version.
So,
Yeah, I could only send a snapshot in time,
yeah, and
so.
we're kind of disconnected with this process, I'm gonna be honest, because we have so many policies right now. You and I are doing a lot of work together, and, the emails going back and forth. So I will take some responsibility, but
I think we do kind of need to, we probably do need to sit down and have some kind of document management, and
Yes.
because this is
Right.
coming out of my Google Docs, which is, from my town email, but it's still my email. It's probably
Right.
coming from something from the town, we should
Right.
probably have just saying, we should probably have a better system while we're working on all these myriad documents.
Right. So I agree with everyone in this room that it does need some more work. we are coming up,
I know we're coming up on a deadline.
because we do have to get the questionnaire out to agencies.
Yeah.
And we're, the tier A, we should probably be sending out a check soon for
Yeah, but
appropriations.
they would be under the old policy, wouldn't they? The ones that we've already approved.
The 4.
Yeah.
So the real issue is this October deadline of when we're expecting agencies to send us information.
Correct.
Right.
I mean, I think, and I know you had your hand up. So I think that because the major change to this so far is that we've eliminated Group C, and I think the major work that we have ahead of us is which one of those qualifies as being in Group B, because I know there are a couple that we felt strongly should be in there. Do we have to have the policy in place in order to send out the questionnaire? I mean, the questionnaire is just asking for information. We're not guaranteeing anything.
No, we're not guaranteeing anything.
Because I mean, the thing is that once we do get this, we are going to have to wrestle whether we have a robust policy in place or not. We're going to have to wrestle with who gets the funding and who doesn't, right? So that seems like the more important conversation that we're going to have this fall than nailing down everything in this policy. And it may actually help inform us how this policy is going to be finalized if we have them all in front of us and say, well, this one, I'd really like to include this one, but it doesn't fit. So I don't know if that's a good strategy to send them out anyway, using the new questionnaire that we wrote.
Right. Well, my fear is that if every single agency fills out a questionnaire and then they're denied.
Well, maybe we send a notice
You send
with
a
the
notice
questionnaire saying we're in the process of this.
Yeah, and
Tune into select board meetings
Right.
if you want to be involved in it.
and they can always petition. So,
Are they all coming to the select board?
which
Were you gonna invite the agencies?
that's what I did. That's what I did. I sent out a bunch
Okay.
I sent out everybody on the email or I tried to, because that's why I wanted it as an Excel spreadsheet, because I was having trouble with it, but I cut and pasted as best I could. So obviously I missed some of them.
So,
But in general, if we can keep everyone aware of what we're, doing, I don't want to surprise anybody. But we do have to make a decision soon. Laura?
Just a real quick points. Yes, Putney Community Cares got 2 allocations. I was actually sitting on the board when that came before the board, and the reasoning behind 2 allocations at the time was that you were merging the work, and that didn't reduce the work, but also that this was going to happen. And so that 2 allocations would go away when a new policy came into place, and that hopefully that new policy would reflect the work that Putney Community Cares is doing in a way that was equitable. I'm wondering about the 54 and 46%, how you came to that number.
I took Group C and I divided them equally between the two. It's not scientific.
Yeah, I also wonder about dilution of, because I can't help but think that we probably do have another organization in town that's going to come into the Putney based, which I think is great, but is there at some point, do you want to write any language that limits how many organizations can apply or can receive this funding? Not saying to do it or not to do it, just something to think about.
Right, the dilution thing.
Yes, yeah, because it is limited.
We are concerned about that.
Yeah.
At some point, it becomes
It becomes a problem. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
I think that was all I had for you. The applicability, if you want to rewrite that and I feel like both Ruby and I could easily edit this and give you some better language to use in here. Some of it really is very problematic, and I'm surprised that it came from VLCT.
And I would hope that you would pass that on to VLCT.
Yeah,
They
give
really
them that feedback, because
problematic.
the last
It's-
two
yeah,
lines
it's
in
really
here
bad.
are just
Yeah, I know,
downright insulting.
and I saw that too, but it was, it was in a draft form. I was like,
Yes.
you know what, I'm not gonna worry about it
You're
too much.
right.
I'm just gonna send this out. Yeah, and also, like you said, it's not complete. So if you have language, that's great.
Well, first, it seems like we have to decide the bigger issue first. Like what
Which bigger issue?
I don't think like just saying these type of people and these type of people and these type of people is the answer. I think the answer is a more overarching philosophy of what we're trying to do with this.
Right.
As opposed to, because these types of people are going to change. Maybe next time it's, because East Putney got flooded out, and so therefore the flood victims, or I don't know. To me, it should be more a description of, to me, it's more of a vulnerable population description.
I remember you said that in our notes, and that's where I got stuck.
I would suggest adding marginalized too.
If you have language that you can put in this applicability
I'll try.
piece,
I'll send you
send it to, that would be great. And there was also talk the last time that we talked about this, about including language about aligning it with the town plan, which I don't think, again, I got stuck on that, like where to put it and how to word it, and it didn't make it into this version. And then there was also, we wanted to change it from significant level to something about impactful, and maybe I'm overthinking that, but impactful didn't sound right. I think there's another word close to that we're looking for.
I am confident that if we sit down and do it, we can do it.
Okay, well-
we just haven't done it.
Okay, so
This far, this is huge.
I also think, I appreciated there's a word that is in the policy which is measurable, because I think measurable impact is what you're trying to get at.
Yeah.
So it's not, if you can argue that you have a big impact and why not give me money, but you really need to have, bring the receipts for it, like how many people are served and how many are in Putney. And so if you can't answer those questions on the questionnaire, you're out of luck.
did I send you the questionnaire?
That was not attached.
Okay.
No.
Because we did change the questions on the questionnaire, and some of them, that we were trying to get at that number
Yeah.
in some way, and I'm not sure we completely nailed it, but it was close.
Right, because we were trying to get at, it's not just about numbers.
Right.
It's not necessarily just a quantitative thing, but if one woman in Putney isn't, murdered because what used to be the Women's Freedom Center is in Brattleboro, that's significant, but it might just be one. But, just, anyways, so trying to balance that out.
Other comments on the select board about this policy?
There you go.
Thank you for the directive, Karen.
But we'll get there, we'll get
We'll get there.
there.
So,
And your help is, thank you. very
yeah,
much.
thank you for that.
May I ask a question?
Yeah,
So this October deadline, so I would, as an organization, we've had the old questionnaire for so long. We know what to get. So if it's changed, it really would be helpful to have a sense of what the new questions are.
it hasn't changed a lot, but I can send it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can
All
send that out. I guess I didn't think to attach that part.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
So I think a letter with the questionnaire
mhm.
for the next meeting.
Okay.
And then,
Yeah.
or I can draft something and I think the board should approve it, the letter.
The letter, sure, we can do that. Is that gonna give you enough time?
Well, let's see, so the 18th, yeah. Everything's gonna happen mid-November, just before the
Hey.
holidays.
November is the new October.
Right, so, yeah, let's plan on that.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I'm comfortable. I'm not sure that we, as a board, need to see that letter if all the letter is really saying is changes are being made. If you know, plug it into the select board meeting if you want to be part of that conversation, you know.
Yeah, probably not. You don't want too many cooks in the kitchen on that letter, probably.
Okay.
I'll
draft
I
something.
mean, if you want to run it by me or Peg or somebody, you can do that
Yeah.
just before you send it out, but,
Hey, yeah, I don't mind.
yeah,
Okay.
Right, I'll take care of it.
okay.
What is that?
This is a little better, the language in this. You must have had an older version.
Oh, okay.
No,
Thank you.
What's that, the
A
new
little,
one?
but not much.
it's a little better. You can improve.
See you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot, everyone. Are there any comments online about the, what are we talking, community service appropriations policy draft? Any other further comments here? Okay, so we'll do some more work on it. Promise. All right. So the next thing is the draft flag policy, and basically what I did was I took, let's got a bunch of stuff across. Okay, so basically what I did was I took what I understood to be the changes that we talked about. So I removed, let's see, I put in application, this policy applies to all buildings and properties, I guess property, controlled by the town of Putney, crossed out all individuals employed unless a provision of the policy 3.4, left in guidance of A, which I guess the numbers in the, what do you call those, letters will change. But so I left that part in, I removed B, and then I put in an arbitrary date of Memorial Day and July 4th for additional flags for seasonal display for the flags on the flag posts. We can discuss that. We chose option 2, which we won't call option 2, but I put in here, I said that the banners, the special flags or banners will be displayed upon unanimous approval from the Town of Putney Select Board, which was just my thing. But I was changing it, so I had to put it in. Request number 2, I changed, or I added, I can't remember. Request to fly a special flag may come from the town manager, town clerk, individual select board members, or upon recommendation of a town committee, commission, or board. Members of the public who seek to fly a special flag or town property on town property shall find a select board member to sponsor their request. And then I guess that's everything that I did. And I think what we decided last week, 2 weeks ago, was that basically we wanted to nail the basic structure of this down and then send it to VLCT to review. So, what does the board think?
I love unanimous. I think that it should be unanimous if we're gonna raise the flag.
Okay. I mean, the only other way that what I was trying to get, and I agree with you, what I was trying to get away from was there was 3 of us here and 2 of us, there's 3 of us makes a quorum, 2 of us agreed to fly a flag.
Yeah.
Which is not a majority of the select board. So it could either be unanimous or majority of the
Total select.
total membership of the select board.
I actually am more comfortable with that,
Okay.
because that's the way we do most of our business.
It
Not
is.
all of our
Although, just for the record, to remove a planning commission member, for instance, it has to be unanimous. So they're already in statute have
Yeah,
those,
but I think a majority.
majority.
That's my preference, but.
How strongly do you feel about unanimous?
I just liked it. I mean, I feel like it could avoid possible conflict, and I feel like that's been my main objective with all of this, is just avoiding any conflict if possible. So I like unanimous.
Okay. What do you think?
Could go either way.
You could go, okay,
Yeah.
so you have no opinion. Swift, do you have an opinion?
Sure. Okay. I would add personally, and as the chair of the equity committee, I know that there's been a lot of hesitation around these resisting conflict. And personally, and I've spoken this before, the piece of if these sort of movements of government speech are about creating change, not everyone is always going to be 100% behind it. Great, let's do it. And it makes me tentative when we get stopped by our fears or our habits. So this piece of recognizing when we're coming up against that, like, oh, let's just make sure we all agree before we go forward, feels like it's not personally what I vision actions that might be displayed on town property doing, that they're instigating, like, hey, here's this new thing that's a point of conversation that people, I'm not saying that it's there to cause conflict or there to cause disagreement, but it is things that are new, possibly, and definitely might start conversations. So I would recommend, personally, can't speak for the committee, but this piece of how do we have spaces where we don't all agree and can still start conversations, and go for the majority versus unanimous.
Okay, thank you. I mean, my overriding reason for going with unanimous or total membership of the board is to avoid the only possibility I could think of was 3 of us here and 2 of us agree to fly something that the majority would actually not approve of. So anyway, I want to change it to, I mean, we're always going to have conflict, even if it's a unanimous, you know, it's like, it's, so I think, that's, Peg said this once to me, said, we're never going to please everybody. And I think if we take that to heart personally, it makes it a lot easier to absorb the conflict when it happens. So, total membership of the board is what we're going to say. It's the majority of the total membership of the board, right? Is that the language? I think that's what it
I
is.
think that is what it says.
Okay. What do you think about number 2? Limiting the request to fly a special flag to basically certain town employees, select board members, or boards and committees.
Well, that certainly aligns with the government speech that we're trying to use as our guide, right?
Yeah.
These people are the government.
Yes,
The local
these people are the
government.
local government. Anybody have strong opinions against that language? Comments online, Swift?
I guess I'm curious of including that last sentence or not. Does it need to be included of how individuals can get something in? I don't know if it needs to be included. If the goal is not to have individuals putting forward requests to fly flags, it's clearer to include that, but it also could be in this gateway of like, okay, great, go to, like, you want to fly flag, go to I feel like people go to the select people when they are looking to have changes made as an entrance to this container. But I'm curious if that's required or not to put that in there.
That's a fair point.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, you want to take that out? The last sentence?
Yeah, because also it might be, yeah, some,
It's kind of
there might be,
extraneous,
it's
right?
kind of extraneous,
Yeah.
and the other place you might go is to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, if you want to fly, you know, so you might go to a committee or an individual person, or to the town, you know, any of those people seem like they should be open to having a conversation about that.
This is true. Okay, so let's remove that sentence. Did I skip over stuff? Okay, so I think,
The thing about how long to fly.
oh, right.
flags.
So, I mean, I picked two patriotic times. It could be Memorial Day and Labor Day. I heard Karen say that, you know, if they're only up for, you know, 30 days, it's really not worth it.
I'd like to see Labor Day.
Like to see Labor Day?
Yeah.
Does anybody?
From Memorial Day to
To Labor Day?
Yeah.
Labor Day. Well, that's the whole summer.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
16 weeks.
Well, what was the can we be reminded again of the rationale for why this was an issue at all?
Yeah, I mean, I can say that more than one person had come to the Equity Inclusion Committee voicing that they were uncomfortable, more than once too, with how long, with no end date in sight, that it seemed to be going on this year. Like, they were curious why it was happening, and yeah.
They've always had an end date. I mean, isn't it usually after
I guess
Labor?
we've just not ever had it in writing.
Yeah, it just wasn't in writing, but it's
Right.
always been the same time they went up. I mean, roughly. In the
They
same-
have been up as long as Veterans Day, but you get into bad weather
Mhm.
and the highway department is busy and it'd be snowing or raining, and so they definitely need to come down sooner. Labor Day is
That's a good time frame.
Okay.
No different than any other town around.
Right.
I mean, you drive through Westminster or you know,
Yeah, I mean, I see them in
Brattleboro.
all the
Westminster, I
towns.
think
Yeah.
they're still up.
Yep.
Okay. Good with it?
Yeah,
Labor Day
I don't
sounds
have any.
great.
All right,
This is not.
Comments online, Swift?
I just wanted to show that it wasn't just the length of time with an undiscriminated like end date. We got a lot of feedback that people were uncomfortable with what the American flag meant for them. And yes, they do live in America, and this is a flag that's very prevalent. And a lot of them were uncomfortable saying that, and wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable coming to this room saying that. But this piece of that flag felt like something that doesn't represent them, something they don't want to have flown in their face. And so the piece of having so many of them for so long, I think it was at least 4, if not 5 people have come to meetings, brought it up more than once. What Nate said is true. I mean, maybe it's every other flagpole is an option. If we're not going to shorten the time, maybe it's every other flagpole.
I think it's every other already.
It is. I mean, that's what it says in the policy here.
I wrote every other. I don't know if you kept that or not.
It's
So
in
right
there.
now it is
It is in there, yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, I completely sympathize with people who feel that way, and I heard a really good podcast the other day by a local person, and it was all about how they fell in love with America all over again. And and I totally understand where you would be coming from, where you're just fed up with the Congress, you're fed up with the way things are, and it's not a flag that seems to represent you anymore. And what I'd like to say is that I hope that this board in particular earns that trust back. And if we can do it one select board, state member, congressperson at a time, that's what we're looking for. I don't want to give up on the United States yet. So I feel strongly that we should still respect that flag in the way that it's traditionally flown until and unless we can't do that anymore. Anybody have any other comments about the flying of the additional flags on the telephone pole?
No, I agree with you, and I agree with the every other flag, the every other pole that you put in there, and it is still in there. So unless we change it, it's still in there.
All I did
And
was
there is something there about just the density of it, that I would support. But so both that and that.
Okay, all right, well, I think both of those things are there.
Can I make one comment?
Yeah.
So on page 2,
Page 2, yep.
option 2, can you add the library?
Yeah, I wondered about that, actually.
I think we took the library out because they said that, they specifically said that they didn't have a flagpole. And
They
so
don't right
took-
now,
Okay.
but they're gonna be working on it, so. I don't wanna leave them
Take it-
out if you're gonna make a policy.
Oh, I see. It
We're gonna
says-
have to change it.
Would
Can I
this,
speak directly to that?
Yeah, go ahead, Swift.
I spoke with Emily about this, and she asked us not to include it. She said, please don't put the library in. You can always put it in later, but right now we don't even know if we're gonna have one. We don't have any flagpoles on the property. She asked us to take it out. So if you, Karen, or Aileen want to have a follow-up conversation with her about that, that's why I took it out, because I had a direct conversation with her when it was in there. She was like, please, just don't put us in. We don't know if we're gonna have one. We don't
Where
have
does
one right
it even
now.
say?
I put it for the same reason, Karen. I thought the same, let's just get in there. If they put it in, great. If they don't, great, it's in there. We don't have to come back to this. But Emily did make that specific request. I have another comment after the letter.
Okay, so, so it does say and or, so I feel like if we just added the library in there, we're not obligated to put
Right.
anything there, especially if there's not one there. So as long as we're just saying that it may be displayed on all of those properties, or maybe just one, I think I think that covers it. So,
It is a public building.
yeah, so, and or,
no, it has to change because now it's more than 2.
okay, town hall.
On any of the flagpoles
Okay, on
located
either-
outside.
Okay, on any of the flagpoles located outside town hall, fire department, or library.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else have any other language in there to talk about before I bring it back to Swift? Swift, you had another comment?
Just one question there. This is only for outside flagpoles. Do we have any flagpoles inside?
I think we decided they were just gonna be outside, but I mean, I guess theoretically, there might be
That's
one of
fine.
those ones that would be behind me or something.
What was in the original policy? Thank you for that piece. What was in the original policy? Was it, actually, I think it didn't make it to the original policy, but I'm curious, and it was in a draft that the Equity Inclusion Committee had, was a proposal or something of, especially if we're doing every other flagpole for American flags, there is the possibility of having a longer term flag that's more representative. It's like a summer event flag on the opposite flagpole, or an Earth. There was the one person on the committee was really interested in flying like the planet Earth flag, that's something like that really unites all of us. And this piece of having those alternate telephone poles be another space that could be utilized. Maybe it's a separate policy for that. Doesn't necessarily have to be now, but just bringing that in again here.
I think we're gonna get into, I see Karen giving me a death stare. So I think part of the issue there is that it does take time and effort to put them up and bring them back down.
Right.
And then there's also the reality that we would have to buy the flag and the pole, so that we're getting into money and time. So I think I feel at this point not putting that in right now, until we came up with maybe a flag fund or something like that. But I feel like that's a little more complicated. We're really just trying to get this off the ground. Unless anybody feels strongly that we should.
No, I agree. I feel like that's another
I
undertaking.
personally like the Earth Day flag because that's my birthday, so. Okay, so Anybody else have any other changes or suggestions?
So now we got enough flags, we can run them up Kimball Hill, use the extra ones.
Sure.
We got them, we might as well put them to use on the other flagpole.
Or if we save them, they'll last twice as long.
That's true.
That's true too. Yes.
You say if we do that, Eric, we'd have to change the wording on the first page because it says from Basketville or the fire station to Basketville.
Maybe we
And
should
then what
think about
happens
that.
when they bury the lines?
Oh, come on.
All right. Let's just leave it the way it is right now, if everybody's okay with that. Okay, so I think what we want to do is approve this with the changes and also approve sending it to VLCT for review, right? Is that a good process?
Sure.
Okay, so can I hear a motion to approve the Town of Putney flag policy with the changes noted and to send it to VLCT for review?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the Town of Putney flag policy with the changes noted and to send it to VLCT for review. Any other discussion among the board? Any discussion online? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay,
Wow, one more policy down.
all right. And there is nothing under select board reports. Does anybody have anything to report that didn't make it into there? Okay, do we need an executive session?
No.
Wow, all right. So the next meeting is October 18th, 2023. That's a special meeting next week.
No.
No?
So that one's a regular meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the question is, for next Wednesday, October 11th, can people meet for an executive session? You were at 6:30.
Yeah,
Is that what I
I
said?
can make it as
Eric
long as it's
can
up.
make it.
I can do that.
Do you want 6:30?
Sounds like it, because it would be good to have everybody here.
Yeah, I could do 6:30.
Yeah. Okay, so next week is it's going to be an executive session. So we'll open it up in public and then we'll go in executive session.
Yeah.
So that means, so next week will not be on Zoom. And
No.
won't need you here either.
No.
So it will only be at the town hall. There'll be a brief public period and then we'll go into executive session. So that's a special meeting on October 11th, 2023. That's next week. October 18th is our regular scheduled meeting. And then October 24th is a Tuesday, and that is the town plan public hearing. And that will also be on, here, we're doing it here, and online. Okay.
What time is that, do you remember?
I want to say 6 o'clock.
I don't remember.
It should be posted, but.
It should be online.
Right, it is definitely online.
Okay. So, can I hear a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, everyone.